Hello there and welcome to Season 2, Episode 12, or Paradise Preview. I'm Josh Gaffney and joining me is Graham Wilson from Beyond the Waves as we look ahead to Celtic's game against Barcelona.
So Josh, we are coming up upon the biggest and maybe the highest profile, we'll say, game that Celtic is going to play in for years. You know, let's be honest, we're going up against the Catalan giants, Barcelona, at the Camp Nou in the Champions League. No bigger spotlight, and I think our players are up for this. They're ready for it. We have a confident side, judging by the comments from Neil Lennon coming into this tie. It's all to play for. We're currently second on 4 points in the group, and the range of expectations is really all over the place. What are your thoughts, Josh? I mean, can we go to the Camp Nou, get a result, and how are we going to do this?
Well, first of all, going back to our game against St Mirren, which was, brilliant, exceeded my expectations in every way. We played a really high tempo. Our passing was neat, and we got some really, really good performances out of like Tony Watt. I thought Assad played well. Wanyama had a great game with scoring 2 goals. Ambrose got himself a goal. Tony Watt got himself a goal near the end, and even substitutes like Azagiri came on and had a really good game. And Celtic were due one of these games. The way we've been playing basically since the game against Wraith Rovers, where we beat them 4-1. We've been waiting for a game to get just a really high goal scoring tally. We could have got it against Motherwell, but we weren't really clinical that day and only got the 2-0 win. But on the day, we're quite clinical. But, that game could have been easily 6, 7, 8-0 as well.
Easily. 25 shots, 14 on target. So we definitely created our chances and tested the St Mirren keeper. This is, I think, a key point coming into this Barcelona game. This is exactly what we need to be doing. Victor Valdez coming off of some shaky performances as of late. I think that there was a time in his career when maybe he was a bit underrated, maybe a bit overlooked, especially in the shadow of Iker Casillas. I think as of late that has shifted and he's become overrated. I think that he hasn't improved yet to the point where he can be considered a world-class keeper. We saw a couple of howlers from him, most notably this past weekend against Deportivo. A couple of goals from Deportivo that he really should have saved. So we need to test him early and we need to test him often because, coming up against Barcelona, every team has the expectation that they're not going to see much of the ball. So when we have the ball, we need to create chances and take them.
Yeah, definitely. I'll give you some stats about Barcelona so far this season. They are currently top of La Liga with 22 points in 8 games, 7 wins and 1 draw. They've scored 24 goals and conceded 11, which is actually quite high for a top 6 team. Atletico Madrid, they've only conceded 8 goals in comparison. And Malaga, they've only conceded 5, so they've been quite shaky at the back, especially with their last game. They won 5-4. So conceding 4 goals, it's definitely not really their kind of priority for going into this game with a shaky defence, probably due to the injuries. Piqué and Puyol, they are injured. Busquets is injured, and a few other high-profile players defensively for Barcelona are injured. What are you got to say about that?
Well, first off, the statistics that you bring up reflect an overall issue there. And as you mentioned, Gerard Piqué, Carlos Puyol, both out with injuries. Carlos Puyol especially with nasty dislocated elbow, just nauseating. But what they've had to instill is a makeshift back four, if you will. Jordi Alba, obviously the new signing over the summer, very dynamic player, going to cause problems all night long up that left-hand flank. Probably one of the most dynamic fullbacks in the world at this point, showing his worth in the Euros over this past summer. But getting back to the central defense, they've had to piecemeal in Javier Mascherano, who, is more of a deep-lying playmaker in the midfield. He's had to play center half for the better part of this past year. And to his credit, he hasn't done all that bad, fulfilling in a sort of deputizing role. But, not having a bona fide partner for him in the form of Sergio Busquets, who's or as I like to call him, Biscuits, who is out for this game as a result of picking up a red card in the previous Champions League tie. So he's suspended for this game. I think that's the biggest miss for Barcelona. I'll get to that in a minute, but they're going to have to inject another signing from this summer, Alex Song, to play next to Javier Mascherano. What we've seen in these recent games where they've had the partner at center half in the central defense is a lack of communication in my mind. So many spaces where you could absolutely land a plane through it. These are spaces that are going to have to be exploited by Georgios Samaras going up that left-hand flank. And as we mentioned just now, Dani Alves out with injury. Probably going to be Montoya filling in with him. He's no mug, but it's not to the same level. Georgios Samaras running up that left-hand flank, going to have to keep him honest, going to have to limit a lot of his attacking runs. Because, getting back to Busquets would typically be able to slot in and cover for Montoya while making those bombing runs. If he is not there and he can't help out in the right back slot there to help with the defending, that's going to stretch Alex Song or Javier Mascherano out wide, creating loads of space going through the middle of the park. There's our opportunity right there.
So it's whether or not we can, kind of produce the same sort of performance as Spartak Moscow did, but keep it tighter at the back.
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, the Spartak Moscow result. It looked for a time there that Spartak Moscow was going to take the result, so it can be done, especially in the early going. We need to stamp our authority on the game, so to speak. Saw some unbelievable odds on Charlie Mulgrew scoring the first goal away at Camp Nou. That would definitely be worth a couple of quid. But getting back to sort of the layout of the game, I've seen some formations and some starting 11s being proposed from Barcelona, including Adriano. I think that's a mistake. I would project, my prediction is that Tito Villanova is going to go out with a fully convinced and full conviction behind a more attacking side. Personally, from a strategy standpoint and from an attitude standpoint, I'd rather be fully committed to a riskier attacking side than sort of being caught between two minds trying to play it safe. So with that being said, I definitely see the more attacking midfield three and a 4-3-3 that's going to line up for Barcelona that we typically would come to expect from them. I think that the opportunity is definitely there. You cannot look at this game and say Barcelona is just going to walk all over Celtic. Let's talk about Celtic. As you mentioned, 5-0 result against St Mirren last Saturday. Fantastic performance start to finish. Who are some of your key players going into this Barcelona tie? For me, Victor Wanyama, busting up play in the middle of the park. We have to have somebody that's going to be on Messi all night long. I think he's our man.
Well, the key thing from the St Mirren game, I thought, was the formation, and it was a 4-3-1-2 or a 4-3-2-1, basically with three front men. That was Hooper, Lassad and Watt, and the three of them would kind of rotate around each other. One of them would drop back to collect the ball and then move up and support the other two strikers, or two strikers would come back if they're struggling to find the ball a little bit more. I don't think we'll play that sort of formation. I think it'll be a bit more defensive. That's why I'm thinking that we'll play a sort of 4-5-1, 4-1-1 formation with some changes. I'll just go through my proposed team lineup. First and goal, obviously. Right back. Now, I'll go for Matthews just because he's got a little bit more agility. He's got a little bit more pace, so he will be more likely to be able to keep up with the pace of the Barcelona players. Lustig, I'm not too sure if he could keep up with the likes of Messi, Pedro, Tello, as well as Matthews. Centre back, I'd pick Ambrose and Wilson. I was struggling a little bit to choose the centre back pairing because obviously you've got Mulgrew. A lot of people always try to fit him in, but Ambrose, he's been really good since he came in, and Wilson, he's been quite consistent. He's not the best in air, but on the ground, I'd say he's probably better defending than Mulgrew. It just feels like a more complete centre back on the ground, but he is a little bit weak in air. Although Barcelona aren't going to be a major aerial threat. And then left back, you could put Mulgrew there, but I'm going to go with Izagiri, same reason as Matthews, to try keep up with the pace of some of these Barcelona players. And I'll move on to why I think pace will be necessary against Barcelona. On the right midfield, I'd put Scott Brown. He had a really good game against Spartak Moscow away, in a sort of centre-attacking midfield position. You could put him there, you could bring him in more central, but I'll put him out wide because the main reason that Barcelona do well at home is because they really stretch out the pitch so much. And Messi can take his turn going out wide and supporting the men in the middle as well. They've just got so much pace down the wings, Barcelona. And I think Brown would be key to dealing with that. Centre midfield, I'd go with the same sort of dynamic midfield that we had against St Mirren. Kyle, Wanyama and Ledley. A sort of triangle formation in the middle, with Brown to the right of them, slightly ahead of them, and on the left, Georgios Samaras. I think his physical presence will be absolutely key against Barcelona, especially during corners, free kicks, and just try to get his head in the ball against Barcelona's small centre backs. Although Song isn't really too small, but he isn't exactly the strongest player in the world. And then up front, Guy Hooper. What'd your team be?
You make a lot of good points there. One thing I will counter in your argument is at right back. I would definitely have Michael Lustig. Now, I see the points that you're bringing up. Adam Matthews definitely a lot more pace, a lot more athleticism, comparatively speaking. Michael Lustig isn't really a parking cone in his own right, and he's definitely come out into his own over the past several weeks. But Adam Matthews, as I saw with my own eyes in Philadelphia, going up against Karim Benzema and Real Madrid, I think in that game we didn't have so much of the ball. And when we don't have possession, I think Adam Matthews tends to get found out a bit more in defense. With that being said, I think Michael Lustig is much more of a steady, like you mentioned, of attack, especially having to deal with Jordi Alba with all the pace that he has bombing up that left-hand flank. It's going to be Alba, and Lustig is going to have to deal with him. So that would be my preference. In the central defense, I think that really sorts itself out. Kelvin Wilson went off with a bit of a thigh strain. He's a bit of a question mark. Thomas Ronye has fallen out of favor as far as I can estimate. Charlie Mulgrew is a definite just because of his set piece ability and his ability from corners, putting headers in. F. Ambrose has just been an absolute, just a spark that's come into this Celtic side since he's really cemented his place. I don't see him exiting the center half role with Celtic for any time to come, anytime soon. Emilio Zagari, another player that's really rediscovered his form over the past several weeks, and long may it last. He's definitely going to be the starting left back for me. Midfield, I think it essentially picks itself. Very similar layout to what we saw at Moscow for me. Scott Brown, obviously, we're going to need his leadership, his energy, his captaincy. I mean, he's really embodied what it means to be the Celtic captain. This is what it's all about. Scott Brown on the right, Victor Wanyama in the middle, Joe Ledley on the left-hand side, and then in the Christmas tree formation, Georgios Samaras just terrorizing up the left-hand side, making it difficult for Montoya all night long. Definitely going to be absolutely crucial to have him in there. And Chris Commons, he's been one of the most dynamic players that we've had so far this season. He was a huge part of our result in Moscow. I would fully expect him to be starting with Gary Hooper up top. But we have so much explosiveness from the bench. Tony Watt, obviously Miko has some familiarity playing in La Liga as he did. Lasad had a fantastic performance over the weekend. That's really going to be a tough decision for Neil Lennon, who's going to be on the bench, and as well as James Forrest. Hopefully he has played himself back into match fitness and can feature, because he's had loads of success on these European nights in the past. Now, getting to the Barcelona lineup, who can we expect Barcelona? My prediction is this, like I said before, fully committed to the more attacking 4-3-3. Victor Valdez in goal, Montoya on the right-hand side at right back, Mascherano and Song in the middle, and then Jordi Alba on the left-hand side. Midfield three of Cesc Fabregas, Andres Iniesta, and Xavi. Unbelievable. And then up top, Messi in the middle, Alexis Sanchez on the right-hand side, and Teo on the left. And it's just going to be, and Sanchez and Teo can flip-flop. Teo's played on the right-hand side as well this year so far, but I see it starting off that way. So much firepower, but the opportunity is there for Celtic. Scoreline prediction. What do you think, Josh?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can put in a prediction. I can put in what I like to see. I'd like to see a 1-1 draw. I think the key for Celtic is just to really go into this game with a lot of energy and just try and unsettle Barcelona's defence and make sure that they don't get any cheap goals. Just pressurise them and just keep on pushing the ball for the full 90 minutes. Don't take your eye off the game for a second, because they will hurt you.
No question about it. I think you summed it up right there. Any mistakes are going to be capitalized on, and they don't miss. When they get opportunities, you will pay. With that being said, keeping it tight at the back is absolutely paramount. I mean, it's a cliche, but it rings true. They will find space in the tightest of corridors, and we absolutely have to make sure that there's communication. That has to be paramount. Victor Wanyama has to just stay on Lionel Messi all night long, and even that might not be enough. But in terms of our attacking ability, our attacking potential, it's going to have to come down to Georgi Samaras timing his runs to peel off of their back four, peel off of Alex Song, peel off of Mascherano, and find space in behind, like we've seen from Fernando Torres last season when Chelsea knocked Barcelona out of the Champions League. That's going to have to be the template. Gary Hooper, when he gets his chances, I mean, I think on his day he can rip Mascherano apart, and that's exactly what he needs to do. Create opportunities for Chris Commons as well. My prediction is 2-1 Celtic.
So this has been another episode of Paradise Preview, and we'll see you soon for Celtic's game against Kilmarnock.